From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Thursday visited newly installed prefabricated classrooms in Mariveles, Bataan Province, underscoring the government's push for faster, more innovative solutions to the country's long-standing classroom shortage. The President inspected the modular buildings at Mariveles National High School, Alasasin Annex, where the Department of Education or DepEd is accelerating the rollout of learning spaces that can be built in a fraction of the usual construction time. With support from First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos and the Next Gen Foundation, the classrooms were completed in under 2 weeks, showing how prefabricated structures can quickly fill urgent gaps, especially in schools expecting enrollment surges. Education Secretary Juan Edgardo Angara said, "The modular units serve as a practical stopgap while permanent buildings are being developed. The new classrooms will immediately benefit more than 1,000 students at the Alasasin Annex, which is projected to face a shortage of at least 5 rooms next school year." Beyond infrastructure, the President also led the distribution of digital learning devices and launched the Yakap at Kalinga Caravan, which offers free medical consultations, laboratory tests, medicines, and vision screening for students and school staff. The initiative, supported by PhilHealth and DepEd, aims to strengthen both the physical and academic well-being of learners. President Marcos later toured the Cornerstone Corporation or CSC prefabricated plant in the town of Alasasin, accompanied by Bataan Governor Jose Enrique Garcia III and CSC President Alfredo Comendador Jr., reaffirming the administration's commitment to modern, scalable solutions for public schools.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. assured the public that his administration is working to cushion the impact of rising global oil prices, emphasizing ongoing efforts to secure stable fuel and food supplies for Filipino families. Speaking to reporters in Mariveles, Bataan Province, the President acknowledged the volatility of the international oil market, saying the government is continuously adjusting its strategies and exploring ways to expand subsidies for affected sectors. Despite global pressures, the President stressed that the country's current stocks of oil and essential goods remain sufficient. He said agencies are focused on keeping prices steady and bringing down the cost of basic commodities. President Marcos also highlighted efforts to find alternative fuel sources to reduce dependence on Middle Eastern suppliers and ensure a steady flow of energy into the country. The President noted that support for transport workers continues, including subsidies meant to offset the deferred fare increases, especially with the Holy Week travel rush approaching. Protecting livelihoods, he said, remains a top priority. President Marcos added that the government is accelerating its interventions in response to the ongoing oil crisis.
The problem is masyadong malikot ang presyo ng langis, hindi natin ma-anticipate. So we are still adjusting right now, but I think so far, kahit papaano, we will be able to soften the blow, ika nga. Basta we want to keep as much as possible, huwag po mag-alala ang tao. We are securing the supplies of oil, we are securing the supplies of food, and so far, sapat naman ang ating mga supply, ang ating mga naka-stock na sa langis at saka sa pagkain. Kaya ang binabantayan na lang natin ngayon ang presyuhan. Dahil sa pagkain, mas marami tayong magagawa. Pwede natin, naghahanap kami ng paraan pa para ibaba ang presyo ng pagkain. Yung langis, wala tayong magagawa dyan. Pero at least yung supply ay tinitiyak namin magkakaroon. So kahit na may stock tayo, patuloy ang maghanap ng Pilipinas dahil kumukuha talaga tayo sa Middle East. So naghahanap tayo ng alternative sources ng langis. And so but sa halimbawa sa fertilizer, yun na petroleum product na yun, hindi problema yun dahil yung pinagkukuhanan natin na kapag nangako naman sa atin na itutuloy nila yung kanilang mga kontrata. So we are adjusting well, and we want to, ang talagang habol namin dito is to keep yung hanap buhay ng tao, na meron sila pa ring hanap buhay. And the only way to do that is kung hindi natin, halimbawa yung mga transport workers, kahit na hindi itataas ang fare sa ngayon, deferred lang muna yung fare hike, dadagdagan naman natin ang tulong sa kanila para hindi naman sila malugi.
I was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Thursday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. urged the Philippine Army to continue strengthening its defense capabilities while deepening its role in peace building as the service marked its 129th founding anniversary at Camp Bonifacio in Taguig City. Addressing soldiers he described as a pillar of strength for the nation, the President praised the Army for guiding communities toward peace and stability, and for standing firm through challenges that test the country's security. President Marcos said the Army must build on its gains in internal security and work closely with law enforcement agencies to confront emerging threats from the country's maritime borders to the digital domain.
Through every challenge, you have embodied the strength and courage that inspire our people to move forward with confidence and purpose. As you continue to advance the capabilities of the armed forces, a clear task lies before us. The Philippine Army must continue to build on the significant gains that we have achieved in internal security and work with law enforcement agencies to address emerging threats. The demands of our time call for a force that is agile, effective, and prepared to safeguard our nation across new and evolving domains, from our maritime frontiers to the digital space. To meet this challenge, this administration remains steadfast in modernizing the armed forces of the Philippines while advancing meaningful peace-building initiatives at the grassroots. These are anchored in dialogue, trust, and the shared vision of inclusive progress.
President Marcos reaffirmed his administration's commitment to modernizing the armed forces while also investing in grassroots peace initiatives rooted in dialogue and trust. He cited the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC's Barangay Development Program, as an example of how community-level support can help sustain long-term peace. Highlighting the Army's expanding external defense role, the President pointed to the comprehensive archipelagic defense concept, which allows troops to shift gradually from internal operations to protecting the country's territorial integrity. President Marcos also commended the Army's Katihan training exercises, which integrate infantry, armor, and artillery for rapid deployment and maritime defense. The Commander-in-Chief lauded the Army's achievements in governance and human resource development, including national awards for efficiency and meritocracy. He also recognized its contributions to the self-reliant defense posture program, such as the development of locally designed battle-ready systems. Calling on soldiers to uphold integrity, discipline, and professionalism, President Marcos said, "Every day is an opportunity to strengthen the public's trust." The chief executive urged the Army to remain forward-looking, strong in defense, yet compassionate in service.
To carry this momentum, I encourage the Army to exemplify integrity, discipline, professionalism, as these are the bedrocks of your institution. You have earned the trust of the Filipino people through your steadfast service. Every day offers an opportunity to deepen and uphold that trust. Let this day renew your commitment to sharpening your capabilities, broadening your experience, and raising the standard of service. A forward-looking Philippine Army stands firm in defense while remaining compassionate in the fulfillment of your duty.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and Bhutan Prime Minister Tshering Tobgay have reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening tourism, trade, investment, and cultural cooperation between Manila and Thimphu. According to the Presidential Communications Office, or PCO, the pledge was made during their first historic meeting at Malacañang Palace on Thursday. In their discussion, President Marcos underscored the importance of establishing representation for non-resident ambassadors to further deepen bilateral ties. The chief executive also highlighted the global push for new partnerships in the post-pandemic era, particularly in tourism, cultural exchange, people-to-people engagement, trade, and investment. The president welcomed ongoing collaboration between the two countries through the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, which is currently supporting skills training and workforce upskilling for Bhutan. Prime Minister Tobgay is in Manila for the Asian Development Bank's Asia-Pacific Food Systems Forum 2026 and requested a courtesy call with the president on the sidelines of the event. His visit is the first since the formal establishment of diplomatic relations between the Philippines and Bhutan in October of 2025. The PCO said the meeting marks a significant step toward expanding cooperation in key priority areas. The Philippines currently exports electronic products, machinery, transport equipment, woodcrafts, and furniture to Bhutan while importing wine, fresh grapes, and virgin olive oil. Philippine tourism data shows 335 Bhutanese arrivals as of November 2025 and 380 in 2024. Available information also indicates that Filipinos in Bhutan are employed primarily as hotel managers.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has appointed former Environment Secretary Maria Antonia Yulo Loizaga as Special Envoy for Disaster Risk Reduction and Management. The Presidential Communications Office, or PCO, announced the appointment on Thursday. Yulo Loizaga took her oath before the President in a ceremony at Malacañang Palace on Wednesday. President Marcos congratulated her and thanked her for accepting the role, citing her extensive background in disaster resilience and environmental governance. According to the PCO, the chief executive expressed full support for Yulo Loizaga as she helps advance the administration's priorities on climate action, renewable energy integration, and disaster risk reduction. President Marcos said he is confident she will help strengthen the country's resilience efforts. Yulo Loizaga resigned as Environment Secretary in May of 2025 while the president was conducting a performance review of his cabinet. At the time, Malacañang said she may be considered for another cabinet-level post in the future. Before leading the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DNR, Yulo Loizaga served as director of the United Nations International Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, or UNDRR Alliance for Disaster Resilient Societies, president of the National Resilience Council, and a member of the UNDRR Asia Pacific Science and Technology Advisory Group. She was also executive director of the Manila Observatory from 2007 to 2016. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from Ateneo de Manila University and a Master of Arts in Government from Georgetown University.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news Thursday, Malacañang said the government is now reviewing the conditions for a possible reduction or suspension of excise taxes on fuel products. The clarification follows President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s statement on Wednesday that the proposal requires a thorough assessment, describing it as a very complicated calculation. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro explained that under the approved bill, the president may only act on excise tax adjustments if the average Dubai crude oil price exceeds $80 per barrel for a full month. She noted that while prices have breached the $100 mark, the threshold has not been sustained for 30 days. Castro added that the president can only move upon the recommendation of the Development Budget Coordination Committee in coordination with the Energy Secretary. She also pointed out that the excise taxes apply only when imported oil enters the country. Once the measure becomes law, she said the government is prepared to act swiftly to help bring down fuel prices. In an earlier interview in San Juan City, President Marcos assured the public that the government continues to monitor global oil movements and is ready to intervene once conditions are met.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang has declared March 21st a special non-working day in the city of Urdaneta, Pangasinan Province in celebration of its charter anniversary. Acting Executive Secretary Ralph Recto issued Proclamation Number 1193 by authority of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., saying it is fitting and proper to give residents the opportunity to fully participate in the city's annual commemoration. Urdaneta, located in Pangasinan's 5th Congressional District, spans more than 10,000 hectares and is home to over 144,000 residents. The city is known for its production of rice, vegetables, and noodles, and serves as a strategic drop-off point for goods coming from various towns and neighboring provinces. The proclamation ensures that local activities marking the charter anniversary can proceed with wider community involvement as Urdaneta highlights its role as one of Pangasinan's key commercial and agricultural hubs.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of National Defense, or DND, is pushing back against statements from the People's Republic of China that labeled Philippine maritime operations near Bajo de Masinloc as a self-directed farce. In a strongly worded response, the DND said Philippine activities in the area are lawful, routine, and fully consistent with the country's sovereign rights and jurisdiction under international law. The agency stressed that the real farce is China's call for peaceful engagement while its heavily armed People's Liberation Army Navy continues to harass Filipino fisherfolk operating in their traditional fishing grounds. The DND added it is not surprising that Beijing is criticizing the Philippines' transparency strategy. According to the department, transparency is often rejected by those who twist the truth and manipulate narratives to justify unlawful actions and baseless territorial claims. Defense officials said China's illegal, coercive, aggressive, and deceptive activities in the West Philippine Sea are well documented and regularly reported to the public. They emphasized that Beijing has only itself to blame for the growing global awareness of what the DND described as a cognitive illusion meant to mask the reputational damage caused by its own behavior in the region.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Agriculture, or DA, is assuring the public that the country's food supply will remain sufficient until at least July, despite uncertainties brought about by the conflict in the Middle East. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. said in an interview that there is definitely no issue with supply levels, noting that inventories for major commodities remain stable. He added that prices are expected to stay steady in the coming months. According to the DA, supply is secure for rice, corn, sugar, vegetables, and livestock. The country is currently in the peak harvest season for rice and onions, alongside the dry season harvest and planting of various vegetables. Chu Laurel also announced plans to expand the availability of cheaper binhi rice in select public markets through the Food Terminal Incorporated, or FTI. The initiative aims to offer more affordable rice options and deter profiteering by unscrupulous traders. At present, binhi rice is sold at 48 pesos per kilogram, while Planters Product Incorporated rice is priced at 45 pesos per kilogram in 36 markets across Metro Manila. The DA intends to widen distribution to Metro Cebu and the provinces of Cebu, Cavite, and Bulacan. The agriculture chief said the effort gives consumers a benchmark for fair pricing, especially for imported varieties. He noted that imported rice should retail between 45 and 50 pesos per kilo, warning that prices beyond that range may indicate profiteering. The DA continues to monitor rice prices amid rising logistics costs, with freight and transport expenses contributing to a slight 2 pesos per kilo increase. Based on DA Bantay Presyo data as of Wednesday, premium imported rice in Metro Manila ranges from 55 to 63 pesos per kilo. Imported well-milled rice sells for 45 to 49 pesos, while regular milled varieties are priced at 42 to 45 pesos. Local premium rice ranges from 46 to 60 pesos per kilo. Chu Laurel said the landed cost of imported rice is about 35 pesos per kilo, with a projected 10 peso margin for importers, traders, and retailers. On the proposed 50 pesos per kilo price cap for imported rice, the DA has submitted its report to the National Price Coordinating Council. Developments on the proposal are expected after Holy Week from March 29th to April 5th.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the Philippine government has facilitated the safe return of 317 displaced Filipinos from Dubai, United Arab Emirates, through a third chartered repatriation flight that arrived Thursday afternoon. The aircraft, arranged by the government as part of its ongoing repatriation efforts in the Gulf region, landed at Villamor Air Base in Pasay City at 2:42 in the afternoon. Department of Migrant Workers or DMW Secretary Hans Leo Magpayo personally welcomed the arrivals and thanked UAE authorities for their cooperation in ensuring the safe passage of Filipinos affected by the crisis. He said roughly 200 of the returnees are overseas Filipino workers or OFWs, while the rest are stranded nationals. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. was initially scheduled to meet the repatriated Filipinos but was unable to do so due to a series of private meetings at Malacañang Palace. Kakdak said the repatriation was made possible through close coordination among the DMW, the Department of Foreign Affairs, the Philippine Embassy in Abu Dhabi, the Philippine Consulate General and Migrant Workers Office in Dubai, and the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. He acknowledged that the government encountered logistical challenges but emphasized that safety and security remained the top priority throughout the operation. Kakdak reported that the total number of Filipinos brought home through whole-of-government efforts has now reached 1,400. A fourth charter flight is being prepared for the coming weekend, with around 800 more Filipinos expressing their intent to return. He assured the public that migrant workers' offices abroad continue to process requests and are ready to assist Filipinos seeking repatriation.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 12.020 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.665 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.